Well, let me start with this, Jenna. I was talking to someone last night in the know, and they said that this trade could happen if Philadelphia is willing to give up not only Ben Simmons, but also throw in Seth Curry and Matisse Thybulle. Now, as much as I'm against the Nets making this trade, if Philadelphia throws all of that in, that's a haul. That is a major haul, and for the future, that would help the Nets. I'd love it if Kyrie was playing every night and if I knew where Ben Simmons' head is at. But even still, it might be too much for the Nets not to jump at. So we'll see if that happens. But to get to the question, I'm going to say this. I'm going to give James Harden more credit than to believe that if he's not traded, he will sulk and tank the rest of the season. I mean, James Harden just cannot be that much of a dog that if he's not traded, when he has a chance to win a championship, when he's playing with one of the best players in the world in Kevin Durant and another great player in Kyrie Irving half the time at least, and that he will sleepwalk through the next 3 to 4 months with a possibility of finally getting his first ring. I just don't believe he's going to do that. Secondly, I think he's too smart to do that. Because, Nick, if James Harden did play 50% for the rest of the season because he's upset that he's not traded, then number one, that will affect his legacy. We know he's Hall of Fame, top 75, all that. But there is going to be a serious but after you give James Harden his praise years from now when you say, but he just didn't have it. He wasn't a winner. He didn't go after it. He struggled in clutch moments, and he quit on some of his teams. Like, that'll be a part of his legacy that he'll never overcome. And secondly, if you're Philadelphia, Nick, and you watch James Harden lollygag for the right, are you going to give a 32-year-old $200 million when you possibly may be able to get Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal instead? So I don't think Harden will sleepwalk.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Brew, before I give my answer. Do you think he's sabotaging them right now? Or do you think his hamstring is just killing him? Because they already ruled him out for tonight's game yesterday. They preemptively ruled him out. You think there's an element of what?
There's an element of that, yes. And he wants to get out of there. So I think whether the hammy's bothering him or not, I do think there's an element of that, yes.
Yeah. And I think it's very clear that what Wendy is reporting is correct. It echoes, by the way, exactly what I've heard. And if the trade you proposed, Brew, is the only trade the Nets would accept, then Wilds, I don't think the trade's getting done. Because as I talked about earlier this week, if the Sixers are willing to wait to the summer, they can get James Harden and only lose Ben Simmons and get some draft picks back for him, and Tobias Harris into the waive and stretch provision. Keep Thybulle, keep Curry, get some extra picks, and sign James Harden outright. So the question for Philly has become, what is this extra playoff run with a seemingly healthy Embiid playing the best basketball of his life worth as far as what we're going to have to give up versus what we would have to give up to get James Harden this summer? Is it worth Thybulle and Curry? I don't think so. Is it worth one of them? Probably. We'll see if it gets done. But we have been talking about this from Philly's perspective a lot. I truly believe that given James Harden's disposition, which even Wilds, if it changes, I don't think it's going to go 180 to back to where it was when he first got there. Oh, scary hours. I'll do whatever the team wants. I don't think we're ever getting there again with this team. Pardon me. But given his disposition, his tender, if you will, hamstring, and his drop-off in play this season, which coincided with the officiating changes, which, by the way, is even going to be exacerbated in the playoffs, when he already historically has struggled in the playoffs, I think Brooklyn will be better with this trade. I was talking about them getting Ben Simmons before the year for Kyrie Irving because I think Ben Simmons is a perfect fit for them. I think if you can get Ben and Seth Curry Seth Curry steps into the role vacated by Joe Harris. You finally have defense. When Kyrie's there, you have two great scorers. When he's not there, yeah, for scoring, you're just going to have to rely on the guy that folks tell me is the greatest scorer in league history, Kevin Durant. And you're not going to have to score 130 a night. You're going to have a better defense. I think it would be incredibly short-sighted for Brooklyn to not do this, because I think they might actually be better, and they certainly would be better next year with Ben Simmons there than with Harden leaving and then potentially getting nothing.
Sure. So we know that Daryl loves Harden, right? And if you're Daryl, Nick, I'll throw it to you. And suppose I'm Josh Harris. Like, good news. We're gonna solve this Ben thing. I know it's been a weight on the franchise. We're gonna bring in James. I work with James in Houston, and I'm Josh Harris. So I'm like, all right, just for the record, let me get this straight. He quit on the Rockets. He quit on the Nets. He didn't want to play with John Wall. Now he doesn't want to play with Kyrie and doesn't want to play with Kevin Durant. He didn't want to play with Russ in Houston, and he couldn't play with Chris Paul, the consummate leader. But you're going to bring that guy here, and he's going to mesh perfectly with Embiid, because we have a good team here with all the Simmons drama. That team still has a certain chemistry that works on the court.
Yeah.
And you want to bring him in because he has a track record of what? Alienating teammates and pouting and quitting on his teams? Am I supposed to just say, sounds great, Daryl? Go for it?
So can I be Daryl? Can I answer it?
Yeah, sure.
You're Josh Harris. You present that to me. And I say, no, listen, you raised some good points. But we're going to have to do something. You're worried about James Harden quitting on a couple teams. But we have a guy who has literally quit on us and Ben Simmons. So we have to move him. Who would you like me to move him for? Who is the superstar out there that doesn't have concerns? Is it Dame, who is going to miss probably this year with an injury? No, we have no concerns about Dame at his age, at his size. We have no concerns about Dame. I have some concerns about Dame. Is it Bradley Beal? Who's Bradley Beal? While Harden hasn't been good in the playoffs, Bradley Beal's played in, 5 big games his entire career? No, I'm not knocking those guys. The point is, it's not like, guys, hold off, we're going to get Giannis. Just hold off on it. There's no perfect superstar. Once you get down the list. So Brew, I have been as critical as Harden as anybody. But if you're going to move Ben, who is the guy that I couldn't make a similar case just with different, explanations? No, Dame never quit on anybody, but Dame has other concerns. And by the way, Portland is saying they're not going to trade him. Harden wants to be in Philly. So I think, to me, I think you could knock that down, Brew.
Look, you're right in that there are question marks about Dame and Beal. I don't think Dame wants to play in Philly. That's question mark number one. All right, but
I agree.
James Harden, as Wiles just said, he wanted Brooklyn. He chose Brooklyn over Philly just a year ago. And now he's quitting. Yep. Kevin Durant, one of his good friends, he's quitting on them. If I'm Daryl Morey, there's a large part of me, Nick, that wants to see how James Harden handles the rest of this season. Let me sit back and watch. Do I want to invest $200 million in this guy? Daryl, as good as he's been, he can be starstruck. He's brought in some superstars that didn't fit just because they were big names. He's got to be careful about this if he can make the trade. Well, I think he's got to be careful and observe Harden, because if you quit on 2 teams, one of them capable of winning a championship, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm giving you $200 million.
Can I just ask a quick question? Because I have to keep my streak alive of always comparing things to marriages and cheating and divorce. It's like if you get divorced twice, yeah, but what if the second time I got divorced, it was to marry you? I left my wife for you. That's what would be happening here, right? I'm quitting on Brooklyn to come to you. I'm not just quitting on Brooklyn to go anywhere. I'm doing it because I want to be with you. That, to me, is a little different. He is saying, I'm quitting on this team because I'm in love with you.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.